Welcome to the Aquarian Shaman Broadcast. I'm Star Wolf, your shamanic host, and I'm here to teach you how to transform yourself and transform the world. Twice a month, we'll be exploring how to develop shamanic psycho-spiritual practices to support transformation while expanding your energy field in a way that can also support others. Each episode offers dynamic experiential guidance and teachings on how to safely enter a natural altered state of consciousness using the sacred breath. Additionally, we will discuss the importance of integration and grounding this medicine into your everyday life. Stay tuned. We're about to create authentic, embodied change that will surely grow corn for the future generations. Welcome everyone to Transformation Network and to the Aquarian Shaman. And boy, do I have a treat for you today. But before we begin that, I always like to set our ceremonial space. For me, this is not just simply a radio show or another broadcast. It is a sacred ceremony. My life, and I know that Amai, who you'll be meeting in just a moment, we live our lives in ceremony. And we're very grateful and privileged, if you will, to do that, although it's been hard won, I would say, to live that way. But we want to invite you into our world that we live in every day. And part of that for me is burning some sage, to calling on the great spirits, our ancestor spirits, and everything that loves us, everything that has come before. And since we know that time is not really linear, even our future ancestors and the ancestors that we are becoming. And so we call in everything that is sacred to us to be with us during this beautiful ceremony that's going to be happening shortly. And we put everything into the smoke that you would like to release and let go. Ah, if only it were that easy. But sometimes it is. Sometimes it is. If we're really ready to let it go, we watch it go from this world into the next world. And so with that, welcome everyone. We've set the sacred container here. And I pulled a card today right before we came on from my Anubis Oracle deck that I co-authored with Nikki Scully. And it's Cosmic Influences. Cosmic Influences. And I think that all of us, probably the people who will be watching this, know that we are definitely in some cosmic influences right now. And I think that probably we had an idealized vision of what the Aquarian age would be like. Wrong. Actually, we probably have the vision of what it's going to look like about 1,000 years from now. And that we're doing the work now. And that's okay, because we'll have time to reincarnate and come back and enjoy the fruits of our labors, if you will. But the cosmic influence in the shamanic Anubis Oracle deck is Ma'at, who creates balance, the elemental priestess, and Thoth, who brings in his incredible wisdom. Some say that he came from another planet and started humanity here and brought different beings from other galaxies and dimensions. And Kepra, the little dung beetle, who knows how to deal with stuff and how to roll it up and make it into fertilizer. And so Kepra is one of the most ancient symbols of the goddess Isis holding her arms in the air. That's why we women know how to deal with this stuff, you know. But Kepra reminds us to also be guided by the stars. The scientist in Africa, and I bet you know this, Amai, said that the dung beetles navigate on the ground by looking at the stars. Intelligent little beings. Now, if a little dung beetle can do that, what might we do? We have no excuse. So cosmic influences are upon us, and I think we're all feeling it, whether we know it or not. And today I'm really, really blessed to have one of my dear friends, one of my shamanic sisters and troublemakers, just a brilliant soul. And what I'm going to do, because I'll start talking about her and I won't stop in a good way, but I'm going to read you her bio, which could be much, much longer because Amai has been so dedicated to walking this path basically her whole life. Dr. Myrna Clarice Munchus, Amai. Born under the stars on Wednesday, April 11th, 1951, as a dancer and traveler, is a citizen of the world. Amen. A woman. She brings her elder wisdom into her work through dance, ritual, and storytelling. Amai began to dance in 1955 and to travel in 1965. She's the founder and spiritual director of the International Healing Arts Ministry. Amai's magic. For over 25 years, Amai has traveled the globe on spiritual pilgrimage. She conceived and developed her healing dance process, Movement for the Soul. The cornerstone of her work is a sacred guide for personal healing and transformation. Amai's long-term goals include becoming a published author of at least 2 books that have been waiting for a long time. And I can tell you right now, she's got way more than 2. You're going to have to stick around longer than that, Amai. And gracing the big stage as a transformational speaker and workshop leader. Yes, she is. She has conducted her wisdom work in at least 20 countries on the planet as an offering of her gifts of service to the world. She intends to carry her work forward into the 4th quarter of her life, beginning next year as she turns her 75th rotation around the sun. Amai receives and shares great joy and healing from the work she brings. All blessings be. Well, Amai, I think at least one thing that came to my mind was that people looking at you and going like, this woman's going to be 75. I want some of her Amai's magic. So with that, I welcome you, and I'm so glad you are here today. Thank you.
Thank you for this invitation. I am thrilled to be here, and I'm really touched by the opportunity to offer libation while we're here today. Some people, some of us know libation, and some of us don't. And so this is a great opportunity to to kind of just go through that a little bit as well. Um, and the short name is libation, but when we're saying it formally, we say pouring of libation. And it usually happens out of doors. Um, uh, my my experience with pouring libation comes from my decade in Africa, and so we always pour it on the earth. And folks in different countries have slightly different practices that they use. Let me think of something quickly. Well, for example, the Ghanaians, they will bare one shoulder, and so that it's being humble
Mm.
while they're making this offering, because it is an offering. It is telling the story of the ancestors, basically, and we call ancestral names. And so when we get to that part, folks who are in the audience, you can call names of your ancestors at that time. And as I call the names, the response is Ashe, meaning and so it is. And so I'll tell some pertinent information about the Middle Passage,
Mm.
uh, the enslavement, the bringing of African people from the continent here to the New World. And so that's the story that I'll tell this evening in the libation.
That's beautiful, Amai.
Um,
Thank you for
thank
giving that
you.
definition for people. that can hear the word but be confused about it. And what does that mean? And, what does that have to do with healing? Or, what kind of ceremony is this? And, sometimes people are concerned, like, what is this, this ceremony and that sort of thing. And before you move forward, I just want to acknowledge that you are bringing this ancient, if you will, ceremony to us. No, telling how old it really is, the libation ceremonies, as you said, and in different countries, looking different ways. But you also graced us here last year in 2024 here at our retreat here on the land that loves you, that you've been here a lot, lived at. You've been in, I always call it Amai's cabin, and but that you were here last year for came in as a teacher with one of our trainings, and we went over to the waterfall with our group that was here from all around the world, and we stood there with the great goddess Isis, the beautiful goddess, looking over the waterfall. And you guided us in the libation ceremony there. And there were three of us standing there, three different colors, black,
Mm,
white, and red. We had
mhm.
young Cherokee man. I should say he's a little bit older than now. I've known him for so many years. I still think of him as being young. He's in his
I
40s. He's
know,
still
right?
young to us, right? But the three of us there representing those three, if you will, root races, and um, that you poured libation. And there was a powerful healing that happened. And for people just to kind of get a sense of this, when you've got all these different people, international people here, and you have these three people standing there together as Amai is leading us in this libation and healing the energies between those root races as well. And we're just like,
Mm,
we're actually on Cherokee land here, on the outskirts of it. So there was a triple healing, I think, in some way. I felt that the whole mountain shook, that there was a vibration and frequency that went of healing. And it was just it was so important to me. And I had known Shannon since he's like 18 years old or something, and
mhm.
to see him come full circle and be there with us and holding that as a man, as a, full-blooded Cherokee man, and for us to be holding hands and for all these other people, internationals, to be with us. It was a highlight for me. And I felt that waterfall, because those waters are coming up from the springs of the belly of the earth here, that our waterfall on this piece of land on Dove Mountain really held something really special that day. So I don't know if I told you how deeply that touched me because we were so caught up in it, but it did. And I want to acknowledge that. And also during COVID, and we
Mm,
were all online. You came out here, and we had another international group, a whole lot of people online, and you did libation for people that were all around the world in our Krishna's Lounge. So we
mm,
do this in a lot of different ways. And
mm,
sometimes people feel like, oh, we can't do that if we're not in person or something. But that's not true. It's if we close our eyes, we don't even know we're not in the same room. So we can hear each other. So I'm going to acknowledge you now before I forget about one more thing. And that is, I wrote a book called Aquarian Shaman, Walking the Spiral Path of Transformation. And by the way, Amai, it is my 13th book, and you're in here. Okay.
mm.
You're in here, and you're on page, let's see where you are. You're on page 163, looking
All
very
right.
foxy, I might add. And it says,
Woohoo!
Amai, Clarice, Munchus, Marna, shamanic minister, shamanic breathwork master practitioner, ancestral wisdom keeper, dancer, ritualist, and storyteller. So I don't know if you can see it very well in the bottom
Nice.
corner. Bottom corner right there. There you are.
Yeah.
There you
Thank
are.
you.
So you're
Oh,
acknowledged in the
where's
book
that
as
photo? Hey, where's that?
this. I'll give you one. You come see me and I'll give you one. So this Aquarian shaman, and I listed
Love
about 30
it.
people that I considered true Aquarian shamans across all countries, races, genders, anything that we pretend makes us different from everybody else.
All right.
So we honor the ancestral shamans in great respect. but we are
Mm,
here to evolve shamanism and consciousness and to become into unity consciousness. And that's what Grandmother Twyla taught me. And she was
mm,
native Seneca, but she said, we're not here to just wave our own flag, but to wave the flag for everyone. So,
everywhere.
with that, you are a great example of that. And I see the people on your wall behind there, and those were icons that I looked up to in the 60s. So, I'm going to pass this to you now, this feather of peace, for you to
Oh, thank
say
you
what
very
you need
much.
to and to lead us in this beautiful ceremony.
Mhm. Thank you very much. I just want to take a second and introduce how we're doing this because we're not out on the land. Ordinarily, we would have the water and we would simply pour it onto the earth. Today, I'm going to lift it and pour it back into the gourd. But we have this beautiful gourd that was a gift from Grandmother Barbara. And
Oh,
so I almost always use this when I am pouring libation, whether I'm indoors or out of doors. And so you won't see me pouring it onto the earth, but you should be able to hear, hopefully, hear the sound of the water as it's coming through. And so we pour libation this morning as we praise the supreme omnipotent God, divine spirit, everlasting creator, mother, father, Jah, goddess, light of lights, great mystery, Mkulu Kulu, most high in all of your manifestations. And the response to each is Ashe.
Ashe.
Mhm. We pour libation as we honor those ancestors who live at the feet of God, Goddess, in the lifetime which is to follow this one. Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libation as we honor those beloved ancestors who are fortunately buried in the soil of Africa. Ashe.
Ashe.
And we pour libation as we honor the memory of our beloved ancestors who died in the Atlantic slave trade. Ashe.
Ashe.
For the maiden sisters who were buried in the foundations of slave forts and castles along the coast of West Africa. Ashe.
Ashe.
For those who perished on the routes from the inland to the coast. Ashe.
Ashe.
For those who died in the dark places and spaces in which they were held while awaiting the boats. Ashe.
Ashe.
For those who were beaten into submission or tortured while in captivity. Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libation as we honor the women and children who gave and achieved birth in those unconsecrated dungeons. Ashe.
Ashe.
And we pour libation for the spirits of our ancestors who unfortunately aided in the capture and sale of our African mothers and fathers into slavery. Ashe.
Ashe.
For the Africans who betrayed our heritage of freedom. Ashe.
Ashe.
For the Europeans and others who capitalized on the human trade. Ashe.
Ashe.
For all those who lost loved ones and suffered the grief of the abduction. Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libation this morning as we honor those beloved ancestors who died in the Middle Passage. Ashe.
Ashe.
For those who perished in the holds of the ships. Ashe. For those
Ashe.
who jumped or were jettisoned from the decks. Ashe.
Ashe.
For those who would not submit. Ashe.
Ashe.
And for those whose bones lie at the bottom of the ocean. Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libation as we celebrate the lives of our beloved ancestors who fortunately survived the Middle Passage and upon whose shoulders we stand. Ashe.
Ashe.
For those who endured the trauma, for those who rebelled, for those who escaped, Ashe.
Ashe.
For those who escaped, for those who escaped, for those who escaped, Ashe.
Ashe.
For those who opposed and condemned slavery, Ashe.
Ashe.
For the native peoples of Turtle Island who were deceived and slaughtered, Ashe. For the sacred native lands that were stolen, Ashe.
Ashe.
For those who opened their villages to African people, Ashe.
Ashe.
We pour libation for the dead of our family whose names are not known, Ashe.
Ashe.
And we pour libation as we honor the memory of our known family spirits and call on them by name. Ethel Williams Peterson, Ashe. Haskell Saul Peterson Sr., Ashe.
Ashe.
Julia Jefferson Munchus, Ashe.
Ashe.
Ruth Alvia Munchus Baker, Ashe.
Ashe.
Clara Peterson Dockery, Ashe.
Ashe.
Isadora Dishroom, Ashe.
Ashe.
Dr. Ndugu Tufuriata, Ashe.
Ashe.
Dr. Vincent Harding, Ashe.
Ashe.
Katie Owens Williams, Ashe.
Ashe.
Jesse Williams, Ashe.
Ashe.
Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., Ashe.
Ashe.
Merle Murray Munchus, Ashe.
Ashe.
Nelson Mandela, Ashe.
Ashe.
Ethel Good Munchus, Ashe.
Ashe.
Haskell Saul Peterson, Ashe.
Ashe.
And all of our relations, Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. And Ashe.
Hmm.
Excuse me for just a second. And sometimes the libation goes on for quite a long period of time, because depending on how many people are gathered, because everyone is calling names of the ancestors, and some of the names are, you know, going on top of other names, and there may be 5 or 10 names being called at the same time. It's very rich. And here we use water to pour, but in many places on the continent, they use spirits, some alcoholic beverage onto the earth. And so it's quite fascinating
Hmm.
when
It's
you have a large body of people engaged in this.
it's a beautiful ceremony, Amai. I've been in this ceremony several times with you, and it always feels, because I guess because it's so present and you're so present, and you hold that energy, it always feels new every time,
Mm.
and it just opens my heart. I felt, like tears welling up in my eyes, and imagining my own ancestors who came over from, the old country and actually came to North Carolina and with nothing, those sort of things and what they went through. And, I think that there is a place here that allows us to open our hearts with humility and gratitude that these amazing souls, whatever the conditions were, of how they came, whether they came here by choice or whether they were, kidnapped and stolen, they still made the journey. Whether they
Yes.
fought not to make the journey or strived to stay alive, or whether they perished, in some way, or I always feel like that, the haunting feeling when you talk about the bones at the bottom of the ocean, that sort of thing, and those who jumped overboard, and those who were probably in storms where the ship went down and things like that, and being chained to the boat, all those kinds of things, just unimaginable horrors, really. It's just, hard, and of mothers giving birth to children in places like that. And so it gives us the opportunity to not only bless and send gratitude to the ancestral world. And for those of you who might be watching this and not really understand much about ancestors, or you just think, well, about your grandparents or your great grandparents, that sort of thing, and you haven't really thought much about where your ancestors really came from, because unless you were born here in this country, in the United States, or the ununited states right now, and you, okay, unless
Sorry.
you were born here, I know it's the truth. Unless you were born here on this land, in this particular piece of earth, Mama Earth, you are not native to this land. And so, a good portion, by far, the majority of people that live here in this country now came from someplace else. Their ancestors came from someplace else. So to get here was a huge venture. It's not like getting on a plane or a rocket or even a cruise ship. It took maybe months to get here, and all kinds of initiations. And by far, I'm guessing the most didn't make it. That if we're here and somehow our families, somebody in our family made it here, we're a part of that lineage, and they're a part of our lineage, and always will be. And it's inside of us, and it's an ancestral memory that we have. And to not remember that or honor that, there's either a type of ignorance, an ignorance, maybe out of fear or not wanting to be connected to that, like trauma sometimes. And this is a wonderful way to begin to heal that within our bloodline, going backward to this present moment. In just a minute, maybe you could say something about that, but that it's at a cellular, genetic energy, that we're actually healing the past by honoring it and healing it in the present. Would you say that's possible, Amai?
Well, it is possible, and see, here's the thing. I'm not sure how many people know this, but Africa is the cradle of civilization. All human people came from Africa. And so, we have different hues because people at some point decided to migrate to other places. And so they moved themselves to places that were cold and didn't have the African sun to bake their skin. And so that's how we got what some of our native brothers and sisters would call pale skins, because then people, migrated to Northern Europe and, in those colder climes where, they didn't get a whole lot of sun. They didn't get to walk around, with bare shoulders and just drink in the sun. And so, even though we don't talk about it a lot, um, the human family was born in Africa. Um,
Yeah, I love that, Amai. Thank you for bringing that to consciousness for people. And it's something that I've known for a long time, but I learned it in a roundabout way. And I
mm,
learned it about the story of the wolves. The first wolves were black,
mhm.
and they lived in Africa, and they were those skinny, long-legged dogs and they ended up migrating in, to like Egypt and other places, and they still are there guarding the temples,
Yes.
and they're not jackals. They are
Mhm.
these black, long-legged, skinny dogs, and they have, their smooth hair because
Smooth
they're
hair,
trying
yeah.
to reflect the sun. And that when the continents came together in Pangea, well, it was all one thing, but when they migrated across into this part of the world, and then the continents separated, and the temperature, and as you said, the light and the environment was different, and there was things like snow, and cold weather,
Mm,
and the sun was different. People's skin colors changed, and so did the wolves. The wolves became light gray, and the
right.
further they got towards the colder climates in the Arctic
Mhm.
became white.
White. Yes.
And the people there are also there. Things change when you move with the sun and the continents, those sort of things. And that's why racism is so ridiculous
Yeah.
because it's not just a beautiful spiritual concept that we're all one. We
No,
are.
we're all one. We're all one. And maybe one of these days, that will become like a known fact or something, or an accepted fact. Because I think there are some people who know it but don't want to acknowledge it, don't want to admit it, don't want to, I don't know, whatever. I was in China uh, this past fall, September through, well, I guess you could call it fall or winter because I didn't get back until January. But while I was there, this young woman came up to me and she said, you're you're a hybrid. I was like, excuse me? She said, you're a hybrid. I was like, I heard you. So, will you explain that to me, please? Because for where I come from, we use the word hybrid to describe automobiles, and I'm a human being. So what are you talking about? Everybody was standing around, they were just cracking up. And so she said, well, I just meant that a hybrid, has many different things, many different parts, many different origins, she
Mhm.
said. And so I said, well, okay, that, I can accept that. And I suppose you don't really know how true that is. And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, because my heritage is African,
Mm.
Native American, and German Jewish. And
Hmm.
she said, whoa, everybody's eyes got big when I said that. And it's true. Both of my names are Jewish names, Myrna,
Uh-huh.
Myrna, and my surname, Munchus, Munchus. These come from Eastern Europe. And
Mm.
so it's quite fascinating when we start to delve into these things, because then get the we get the knowledge that of who it is we really are. And it's true, we are all one.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like it some days, but most days I've got that, and I've got that clearly. And so, some people call folks with my complexion, black people. I don't like to describe myself in that way. I call myself mulatto because
Mm-hmm.
mulatto is a mixture and it's much more sexy.
You're hot chocolate, honey.
Chocolate. There you go. There you go.
We all love chocolate. Thank
Mm-mm.
you for sharing that, Amai. I think that's so important, especially right now in the world,
Mm.
and it's not rocket science. It's it's in plain view for everyone to know. It's if anybody can just open their eyes and what brain cells they have and apply them, it doesn't really take anybody to be actually that smart just to see the truth and to understand that we really are all one. And of course, there's different cultures and different prayers, and sometimes people, are drawn more to one um, organized religion of some kind, those kinds of things, with their own sets of belief systems and rules or orders or whatever. But ultimately, in all honesty, if we would just honestly thought about it, if we were peeled, and if we were standing here like Alex Gray's art, you could
Yes,
not tell. You could not tell any difference.
one
And
from the other.
and I just remember, like I said, this woman who came and took my blood, and at one point, and just she said, "Honey," and she held up, all the different vials. She said, "Which one's yours?" And all the blood looked, some looked a little bit lighter, some a little darker, but I couldn't tell. And she said, "That's right." She says, "I've been doing this for years, and everybody's blood looks the same." And it was so powerful in that moment. I thought, I wish there was a way that everyone could have just had that experience, of just seeing how all of our blood is the same. And we give blood to each other and accidents and various things like that.
Mhm.
So anyway, this is it seems to me, um, at this time on our planet, if we're really going to move, quote unquote, into the energy of what the Aquarian energy is, and what I would say, higher love and wisdom, or greater
Mhm.
love and wisdom. It's not only higher, it's also on the earth. That I want to come back to the teachings, and I know you've heard me talk a lot about Grandmother Twyla, uh, niche with the Seneca Wolf Clan, and how her favorite motto is so cute. It was like the Three Musketeers. She would
Mm.
jump around. She's like 5 foot tall, maybe 4'11", and she would jump up and down in her 80s and say, "One for all and all for one." That was her battle cry when she would come in. And she'd say, "And don't you forget it." And
Right.
the beautiful thing about her is that
Mhm.
she brought in her Seneca teachings, and they were so beautiful. But in her circle, if you were at her house on the reservation up in the Seneca um, realm up there and outside of New York and Buffalo,
Mhm.
um, on her farm there, there'd be people from China, people from Japan, people from all over the United States, people from Canada, people from Africa. And this is before computers were personal, people had personal computers. They would find their way. They'd heard about Grandmother Twyla, this little 4'11", Seneca Wolf Clan grandmother who said one for all and all for one. And so there were all these kind of hippies from around the world there. When I got there, I was so amazed in her homestead of all these different people. And I'm like that. And I expressed that to her. And she said, "Well, you're here, aren't you?" You're a little unusual to be here, and I said, "Well, how did they get there?" And she said, "Well, how did you get here?" And I said, "Well, I had a dream about you before I knew who you were. And then
Mhm.
I did some investigation and found out who you were." And she said, "Well, that's how everybody else found me too, because I'm a dream walker. And I
All
reach
right.
out to people whose minds and souls are open, and I draw them to me so that they will carry the teachings forward." And that's what you've done, Amai. That's what you're doing. And
Mhm.
you're giving it your own. You're an elder now, so you can do this. You can add your own nuances to this beautiful ceremony and keep it alive for the present and future generations. Would you say something about not only being an Aquarian shaman, but being an elder grandmother, and like Grandmother Twyla? I'll be 73 this year, so I'm just right behind you, sister. And about, that when you and I came together, we recognized each other right away
Right.
and
Right.
knew that we had a destiny together, and we've woven in and out of each other's lives, but we're still always in each other's psyches. What is what do you feel about being an Aquarian shaman, if you will, elder and grandmother in the world? What do you feel as far as a responsibility, or having fun, or bringing wisdom? What's in your heart about that?
Well, I'm still standing in that place where I want to live my best life. And so earlier on, when I lived in Africa, I felt like I was really and truly living my best life. I mean, it was the happiest I can remember being in this
Mm,
life. Uh, and interestingly, I think I didn't have any intentions, any intention of coming back to the United States to live. I just wanted to do humanitarian service work, out in the world. I decided when I was 15 years old that I wanted to live and work in Africa. Of course, it took me until maybe I was 40 or something like that to go there, or to get there and to spend a decade there. And so some part of that dream has been fulfilled.
Mm,
Um, However, I've just discovered from some exploration in my Akashic records that while I was walking Africa, I made a promise or a commitment to spirit about some work that I would do. And so as an elder, now I'm thinking about how do I do this anointing the earth walk, that I think might have something to do with my earlier work, but it's a different calling, so to speak, because the the message of it is about preparing the earth for this Aquarian life
hmm
that's coming about. There's all of these changes that are supposed to happen, and so a piece of working on the earth has to do with that crystalline thing that is prophesized to come, and so it's very exciting. um I don't know exactly when it happens, but for the next couple of years I'll be moving around the planet and meeting people and recruiting folks to engage, because my work is just walking on the,
hmm
and I don't mean just like minimizing it, but I have this piece to do, and then there are others who will come behind me, and these are the
Yes.
people that I have to find who are going to tend the earth and turn the soil, so to speak, once it's been anointed. And so I take great responsibility for seeing this come to fruition. I don't know exactly how it looks. I'm thinking that maybe I'll get on some cruise ships or something, and when it stops in these various places, I get out and start walking again. So it's quite um, it's quite exciting, and
hmm
kind of fascinating because it's also still a little bit of a mystery. And
It's
and so
unfolding.
yeah, unfolding. They said this is a part of my life path, and
hmm
I'm excited about that. So
It
I'm
sounds
going
like the
to a
next
few
chapter.
places. Yeah,
It
yeah,
sounds
for
like the
real.
next chapter. If I could just throw something in here, this is how you and I really began.
Yep.
Talking in a conversation in the little cabin that I used to live in when I first moved here from California, and you were coming back through here, and all those years ago, I guess it was over 20 years ago or longer. Um, and in that, we talked about bringing together women. That very first conversation. Let's bring women together. Let's do this. And we did. And we created the Wise Wolf Council. And I believe it went on for about, I don't know. I don't know how many years we did it. Do you?
Well, I think it went on for a decade.
I think it was about 10 years.
I think it was, well, that's a decade, 10
That
years.
is, that is a
Yep,
decade. You're
we did
right.
it.
We did
We
it.
did it.
And we had this beautiful council, and then of course we did some children council stuff, and also the men like got
The
jealous and said, "Well,
men's,
we need a
oh
council
yeah, the
too."
men
They
had
had
to get in it.
to, and then of course we would always bring everybody together at the end of 3 days. And I used to say, during the '60s it was sex, love, and rock and roll with Woodstock. So the Wise Wolf Council was not quite that. It was a little evolved, a little more grounded and embodied. But anyway, it was a beautiful time. And then it kind of, there were different things that occurred in the world and in our personal lives. And that went in kind of a, I guess you'd say, a resting place. But I've thought
Yeah.
about it a lot the last couple of years. And especially right now with everything that's going on here in the United States and around the world. And I was thinking that perhaps we need to start another council. And the
Oh.
council this time is the Aquarian Shaman Council.
Oh.
And that some of the original people who were, such as yourself and myself, the founders and co-founders of that Wise Wolf Council, reignite a council, but it to be more global, to be the Aquarian Shaman Council. And so it's just in the beginning stages in my psyche, but you heard it here, folks, first, that I'm talking to my sister here, Amai, and we'll talk. My people talk to your people, in the ancestor world. We'll figure this out. But I'd like to explore that more and what that would look like, and really, and we can bring it to back to the land and to the elemental temples here, but also at the same time we could also broadcast it because we have the ability
Mm.
for it to be multi-dimensional now. We have the ability to have at the air temple to have a camera and to have things going where the whole world could experience the Aquarian Council, have some people designated specifically to filming and catching it for people while we brought those ceremonies to people and to ignite the Aquarian shaman inside of everyone. So I've been thinking about it a lot, and you and I'll have some more conversation about it, but I hope that's kind of exciting you because with your trip
Well,
to China and to wherever else you're going, you could certainly bring that to them and say, would you like to be a part of this council? If there's wise woman, wise men, however we want to do that, we can flesh out the details, but that's just to stir you up, just to stir you up.
I know. I'm feeling stirred. I'm like, okay, how many things can I do at once?
I know that well. And that's a very Aquarian thing too, because Aquarian energy
Yeah,
is about being multi-dimensional,
that's it.
walking in all the worlds, not just between the worlds, but in all the worlds.
All the worlds. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of walking, in this lifetime. People say, what do you do? And I say, well, I quit my career job, after 10 years and I never had another full-time job. I never did anything else other than spirit work
Yes.
for the remainder of my life. And so until now that that's true and I don't see anything changing. We keep coming up with these ideas of ways in which um to move around the planet and to engage with people in different places on the planet. I'm really excited this year because I'm doing uh, Europe and Asia and Central America. I've never been to
Mm,
Central
wow.
America, and so I'm looking to spend some time in Belize and explore there and meet some new people. So yeah, we've got folks all over the planet to engage uh, with.
And are you going to be taking shamanic breath work to some of these people?
I will. I
Yeah.
will. I
Yeah.
will. Yep. Yep. Yep.
So that's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that you're as we say, breathing people around the world. That's been a big goal of mine as well, wherever I am in this country or any other, is to ignite the breath within people and shamanic breath work. And, people all breathe in the same language. And
It's true.
it's a way to really unite, it's another ceremony that really unites
Yes.
people and just takes away all of the artificial differences, you know. So we've got about just a few minutes left, that goes by so quick. Amai, we're gonna have to get together so we can have a marathon, in person, drinking tea, walking on the land, going to see
Right?
Isis and Sekhmet over on the mountain. Maybe even breathe each other or something, that would be,
Hmm.
and to dream about the Aquarian Shaman Council. But I just want to, before we end up closing here in a moment, I want to acknowledge you on all the levels that you have been an emissary for peace and for healing on this planet and healing the insignificant differences between people. I appreciate that. You feel like the perfect emissary for that because of who you are and your lineage, from biological and physical to the exact places that you've been on the earth, the people you've been affiliated with, and your spirit, your indomitable spirit that has continually renewed you and reinvented you over and over, more and more into who it is you really are. So, in these last few minutes that we have, like 5 minutes left together, is there a message or anything that you would really like to share out there in the world with people, or anything else that you want to say? This is your time. I want
Hmm.
people to know who you are and to experience you. I'm grateful for you, and I know you know that. And we'll, like I said, my people will be talking to your people. We'll be figuring out about the Aquarian Council. But at the same time, um, in the here and now, what
Yeah.
message do you have, or what words of wisdom would you like to give to the world at this time?
I think I heard a friend the other day say this is an upside down world. And so my message um, is about standing in the light, so that we, we don't fall down, stumbling around in the dark, or being afraid of what's coming. Whatever is coming is in divine order.
Mm,
It's all in divine order. And so we don't have to be afraid. We do not have to be afraid. We need to, breathe deeply and step forward in the knowing that everything is in divine. Don't spend your time being afraid and oh, what am I going to do? What you're going to do is continue to say your prayers each morning, each afternoon, each evening. You're going to take care of the people in your life, and maybe even others who you see that need help, because there are lots of people, in our world who need support at this time. We have too much to do to be frightened. And so I'm just encouraging us to dig down deep and find that strength within and bring that to bear, because that's what's going to help you, me, and all of us move to the next space that we are being called to be in. Stand in the light, people. Stand in the light.
mm. Amai, thank you so much for your beautiful message. It's okay to feel the fear, and it's
Mhm.
even, important, even more at some level, to not only feel it, but to let yourself go fully into it and come out the other side of it. And to say, if my worst imaginings came true, I'm still me. I'm still me. I still have my heart. I still have my voice until my last breath.
Mhm.
And who is it that I'm going to be one day at a time, especially during these times? I love what Ram Dass used to say, how can I help? And I
Okay.
believe that people watching this beautiful time with you together today will have received some help, from the libation to your
Mhm.
words of wisdom to your personal journey, and to everything that you've shared. And I know that I have gained a lot from being with you at many different times, but again today. And so I want to thank you for coming on as one of my cherished friends, soul sisters. You're a gift to me, and I look forward to dreaming more of Amai's magic and maybe some Star
Mhm.
Wars magic as well together, and seeing what kind of alchemical libation we can create for the future
Oh,
generations. Maybe we need to
woo.
pour the libation for the future generations the next time we're together. And I know that's part of it, but to really call that forward, the imaginal cells. So
Whoa. I'd be happy to. I'd be
wouldn't that
happy
be
to.
beautiful? So they're
Yes,
telling
it
us we
would.
got 1 minute.
1 minute.
I love you. Thank you
You
for
too,
being
darling.
here. And
My
to our
pleasure indeed.
audience, yes, to our audience, I just
Thanks,
want to
everybody.
say Ashe, and thank you for showing up and listening to the words of this amazing, wise shaman, Aquarian shaman, Amai, Clarice. I love you.
You as well,
Thank you for
darling.
being here.
Mhm.
This is Star Wolf, and you've been listening to the Experiential Aquarian Shaman broadcast. Transform yourself, transform the world. Join me every second and fourth Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio to awaken your inner Aquarian shaman. Never miss an episode. Subscribe to my channel and connect with me on social media at Linda Star Wolf. For more information about my offerings and trainings, visit shamanicbreathwork.org. Thank you for taking this special time to journey with me.